It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of Hashtag Event Icons, presented by Endless Events, the show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything. So, you might be wondering, how do you get to ask questions? All you have to do is use the question panel on the right of GoToWebinar to submit your questions. Or you can hop on Twitter to submit your questions with the hashtag EventIcons. We'll be answering your questions live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better conversation we can have. So please help share hashtag EventIcons on Twitter and Facebook. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com. Now, without any further delay, this is Hashtag Event Icons with your hosts, Will Curran of Endless Events, Laura Lopez of Social Tables, and Brant Kruger of Event Technology Consulting.
Oh yeah, we are back for Hashtag Event Icons. I am so excited to be here today. Unfortunately, we are not joined by Laura and Brant. They are both on doing awesome events across the country, so you're stuck with the dark shadow that is me today. All right, so I don't want to delay too much. We got a ton to talk about. These guys are absolutely awesome. I've gotten a chance to talk to David quite a bit about what they are doing, and I'm really excited to share them both on this show to talk about something a little bit different that you might not be thinking about when it comes to events. So I got to give a humongous welcome to the man, the myth, the legend, David Dvorak. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really thrilled to be joining you today, and I've heard so much about this. I had to be on this show.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you on the show. I'm glad we're finally getting a reputation. Awesome. And in the house, Mr. Doug Melinn in the house, joining us today as well. So I'm so excited to have both of you guys. Thank you for being here. We are just very excited to have both of you here today. And as we will move along from my excitement, we got to jump straight in because I'm not really introducing you guys because I think you guys explain it way better than I do because this is actually an area that I'm not really familiar with, which means that I'm going to ask a ton of curious questions as well. But let's just jump right on in. Let's start with David. Tell us, what got you into the events industry and getting into this awesome world from Cendyn?
I joined well back in the good old days when you didn't really study to go into the hospitality industry. You actually fell into it backwards, and that's really how I ended up into it. Really, from my perspective, I was went to school for computer science technology back when they had punch cards, so that's how old I am. And I did some work for an association. And from there, I learned a lot about the meetings and everything that they were doing with exhibits, etc. And what I ended up doing was falling into the role as the head meeting planner after a couple of years in the programming side. And that's where I got into the industry from the meeting planner side. I was a meeting planner for quite a number of years in the Automobile Association market. And from there, did a great job at one of our conventions and was hired by Hilton Hotels, and that's how I started my career in hotels.
That's awesome. And then, so, talking a little bit of, how did you leverage the meeting planning to become, the into the hotel side of things? Like, why a lot of people go from the hotel side and move into the meeting side, but you went kind of backwards.
Yeah, I mean, most of what I do is kind of odd, so, that was kind of an odd thing for me. I think for me, it was just a manner of I wanted to grow into a bigger organization and go further outside of just the meeting planning role. And I saw it as an opportunity within the hotel sector to go into the hotels and get into bigger roles within the hotel sector. And that's where I moved my way through on the hotels, working through those jobs, numerous jobs within the larger hotel companies. And then ended up in the corporate role with Starwood for 15 years, heading up event and catering operations for them. So it really was just seeing a longer-term picture for me outside of the meeting planning side for the association that I was working for.
Awesome. I love it. And if you weren't in the events industry, what do you think you would be doing?
I would be in music. I love music. I can't sing. I could barely play an instrument, but just the industry, if I could manage someone or if I can do other work, that would be thrilling to me.
Awesome. I love it. I think I'd definitely be in music and something as well. All right, Doug, you are up. Tell us a little bit of the backstory. What got you into the events industry and doing what you're doing today?
I was all in at 16. I knew a executive with Sheraton Hotels, and he got me into the industry. I loved what he did and kind of followed him in that way. So I went to school for it. I worked for Hyatt Hotels for a number of years. And while I was working for Hyatt, I was always the technology guy at our hotels, so I would always be dabbling, and that's what kind of got me onto the tech side, and I've been doing that for 20 years now. So
awesome. And I think you guys are going to start, all the audience is going to start to see the trend of the hotels and why that's going to be important a little bit later. But Doug, if you weren't in the events industry, what do you think you'd be doing?
I'd probably be a chef somewhere.
Nice. Wow. Awesome. What's like your favorite food of all time?
I love Italian food. Very big fan. Fresh Italian food is the way to go. So.
I love it. Well, I'm coming over to your house so you can make me some food next time. Awesome. Okay, so I think everyone's kind of curious that, you guys are doing some pretty big things, and Cendyn is pretty big. They may have heard of you, but for those who haven't heard of Cendyn, what exactly is it? What do you guys do? And tell me a little bit about your role there. So we'll start with Doug, if you want to kind of explain a little bit about what Cendyn does and what your role is there.
Sure. I'll talk about part of the company and have Dave talk about the other half of the company. My role here is I'm director of sales, and I work more on the CRM and marketing side of the business. I also manage some of our large accounts for us, like Hyatt Hotels and IHG and others. But I'm all about trying to get hotels marketing the right way and doing the right things that they need to do to go after that best guest. And not only that best guest, but also find lookalikes that are out there and bring in more revenue to hotels.
Awesome. Well, I think now everyone's super duper curious. I mean, David, what is Cendyn exactly? And they might have known a little bit from the title of the episode, which is how do hotels market better? But what would you use to describe Cendyn to someone else?
Yeah, I think the way I describe Cendyn, we are the hospitality marketing cloud, and when we talk about hospitality marketing cloud, it's not just all about hotels, but it's all about the hospitality industry. It's the meeting planner side, the event side, and the meeting planner side, both on the association side of the business as well as the corporate side of the business. So we really span a wide spectrum that really encompasses the whole hospitality industry, which is why we talk about the hospitality cloud. From my side of the business, I'm working on the event side with a lot of the hotels, doing a lot of the event side of their business, as well as the meeting planning side with a lot of the meeting planning aspects of a meeting, and then the measuring of the meeting, and also compliance reporting as part of a lot of the financial and pharmaceutical, and now the manufacturing industry that has to do a lot of that reporting.
So when you're talking about the cloud, and you kind of use it vaguely because there's a lot of little mini tools inside of Cendyn as a whole, what sort of what would someone normally expect if they were to sign up and become one of your customers? Like, what sort of tools are they obtaining then at that point?
Absolutely. So I can talk about it from the event manager side. So we have strategic meeting management tools that really can do the entire end-to-end solution for the event planning. So from the sourcing to the registration to the event logistics to reporting to budgeting, all of that, surveying, all of that information can be captured within the specific tool. And we have that for our larger corporate customers. A lot of the Fortune 100 companies that are whether in pharma or financial, that have to do also compliance reporting. But we also have tools that are focused on the association and the small group customers in the corporate world that aren't in that the Fortune 100 or 500 realm, that can really do a lot of the logistics and a lot of the things that our larger strategic meeting management tool does, but it's much more simplified. And again, more streamlined, modular approach. And then we have the event side of the business on the hotel side, whether it's creating their online menus, online ordering, electronic proposals that go out, really focusing on making things very efficient for those sales folks, because again, you want them selling, not doing a lot of administrative work, and also the ability on the menu side to really create more profitability for the hotels. Because as we know, the food and beverage side of things in the banquet and catering area, it is one of the toughest areas to drive profitability on, as opposed to your room side. So a lot of these tools really focus on providing that efficiency, accountability, and accessibility for customers in the platform that they want to use it in. So using it on whatever device that you would like, whether it be your iPhone, your iPad, your computer, laptop, or your desktop.
Awesome. And so it seems like it's like pretty much a all-encompassing solution. It pretty much almost takes care of most of their processes that they're taking care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we didn't even, Doug just mentioned it briefly, and Doug can explain it a little bit more, but it's also, that CRMs are really identifying that customer, loyalty around that customer, and making sure that you're really focusing on your marketing efforts to not just do a spray of your marketing dollars, but also targeting it to a specific customer and customers that fit that specific need that may not be your customer. Because I think all in all, what hotels want is they want their best customer, and they want the customer that spends the most money with them. So it's that share of wallet as part of their marketing plan.
Awesome. And Doug, you mentioned a little bit about some of the big hotels that you guys have worked with, and you guys have worked with quite a bit of them. So just give everyone a little bit idea of scope as far as the type of maybe they've even interacted with your software, not even known it. What sort of brands are you working with today?
Well, great question. I mean, we work with a number of different types of properties, from your small independent properties that are 80 rooms that are trying to entice more guests to come to their property, up to the chains. I mean, there was recently some press releases about joining up with Red Lion Hotels to do their loyalty and their marketing as well. So we work with all shapes and sizes, and we really focus on helping that hotel in their particular niche. We look at their market, we look at their data, which is so important. A lot of hotels these days don't really know what to do with their data and how to power that data to go find those guests that look like their best guest.
Awesome. I love it. I think we'll definitely have to explore what kind of data you guys are collecting, and what sort of data meeting planners and also hotels need to be collecting moving forward. But taking a step back, why do you think that there was a need for you to create this technology? Why do you think there's a need for technology in hotels, period? Some people say, hey, it's a pretty simple process. Do we really need all of this analytics and, things like that? Can you talk a little bit about what the need was that you were addressing when you created this, David?
Sure. I mean, hospitality has been notorious for being years and decades behind in the technology space.
Yeah.
So we really looked at the landscape, and there wasn't really... There were some great tools out there like Constant Contact and things like that, MailChimp to do your email marketing, but they weren't doing the most important thing, was looking at the data and then segmenting that data so it's the right message to the right person at the right time to attract that guest. So that's really what we've done. We've gone down the CRM route, and people get confused sometimes. We say CRM, and they're thinking, oh, well, you guys are like Salesforce. And, not particularly. We actually help automate what a hotel is trying to do from a guest perspective, from loyalty to surveys, all of that, and taking all of that data and putting it to work for the hotels.
So instead of a CRM, it's more like you'd say it's more like a HubSpot, right? It's a it has all the different phases of a customer's journey involved in it.
You look at the customer's journey from a booking experience and what they've done. We can track all those pieces of data and then go out and find people that look like that person that went through that journey. So awesome. We have great tools. We have great integrations. We recently did another press release about the number of integrations that we've done in the hospitality space, and it's almost 200. So you look at those types of integrations, and that's not only from a time perspective and working, as Dave said, trying to make everybody more efficient, but when you have all those systems talking to each other, we really can try to automate that whole process. Think of an idea about an email marketing campaign that you want to do. Our tools do a lot of the thinking behind it. We can present an ad to a particular customer that's based on their profile. So when one person's getting an email, we can dynamically change the content of that email to match that person that it's going to. So that's the types of things that we automate, and we really do a great job of.
I think I don't know if I'm necessarily speaking for everyone, but I think more personalization in marketing is always better, because then you're getting what you want versus some random blasted message. David, can you talk a little bit about, you're doing a kind of a little bit different side of the business when it comes to, focusing less on hotels and more so on meeting planners. Can you talk a little bit about the need that your side of the software accomplishes?
Yeah, it's almost similar to the hotel side from the perspective of the entire hospitality industry, quite frankly, for a number of years has been 10, 15 years behind real technology. They just never have, catch up to it. They don't spend the money on it. And the thing that they, where the struggles that I see, within the industry is, they want to move to technology, which they need, and I'll get to why they need that technology in a sec, but they don't think ahead really to focus on how much that technology costs. It actually costs money to get technology, and to plan accordingly, to budget for it ahead of time so that you can put it in place. Whereas a lot of the companies that we see out there, or meeting planners or associations, really think about, I need this technology now. How much does it cost? Well, we don't have the money. I can budget for it in 2 years. Well, by that time, the technology is outdated. It's new technology, different costs associated with it. So we always say really think about that in the back end to make sure that you're thinking and budgeting accordingly. For the most part, what we see is the hospitality on the meeting planning side is using either homegrown technology, Excel spreadsheets, Access databases that really aren't specifically to the needs of the hospitality industry. The hospitality planning, the industry is really unique. And across the board, everybody does things a little bit differently. So it's not as cut and dry as you would say any other industry. So what we've seen out there is, a lot of folks are getting inundated with trying to become more efficiently, but they're using off-the-shelf systems that are really not focused on hospitality or planning, and they're getting stuck. They also were not able to report correctly, and now they're being asked to report, and also for them to understand how much ROI or ROO is for these meetings, so that they actually add value and show value to the face-to-face meeting side of the business. And they're not able to do that with the systems that they may be doing, that they may be using, or Excel spreadsheets. So we see a lot of that as a need. And I think one of the things that I talk about quite a bit, which I think is most important, and I think people overlook this, the meeting planners of today look at risks, and they manage risk when it comes to being on site and protecting their attendees, and protecting all of the speakers that come to their meetings, etc. But they don't think about the other side of it, where the risk management is managing all of that attendee data. And if you're managing that attendee data in systems that are just off the shelf, you're exposing attendee data to the bad guys out there. So you want to make sure that you're in a hospitality or a cloud environment, that it's protected at high security levels, so you're not exposed to those risks that can get you in a lot of trouble.
I think you bring up such a great point about the security portion. I think we're going to be doing an episode in the future. Don't know when. I always like to keep the episodes mystery for the audience, but we're going to be doing an episode, I think, purely on security really soon, because I think, yes, as we're starting to add more technology, we're definitely creating a lot of problems when it comes to security. So I'm curious to know, you guys obviously get to work with a lot of awesome meeting planners, a lot of awesome hotels. I think one of the biggest questions that we were getting from the audience leading up to this episode is they want to know, how can they use technology to better plan their events at hotels? Whether, for example, it's using a tool to market their events, or if it's a tool to do their registration. What sort of ways do you think they can, and maybe not a way that they might not be thinking of, use technology to plan their events a little bit better, David?
Yeah, I think that the way that, and I think the biggest struggle, I think, in the industry is there's a lot of duplicate work. and efforts and in the planning process. So one of the things that we've tried to do is kind of really make the tools that we provide similar to both the meeting planner as well as the hotel. So there's kind of a common ground for the planning process. And what that will lead to in the future is the ability to pass information along from the planner directly to the hotel without the need for the continual retyping of information, repurposing information. It really would be a smooth transition, because right now there's a lot of wasted effort, wasted time, and it's been going on for 30 years in the industry of re-entering information that we already have on both sides. So I would say look at the technology that really resembles what the hotels might be using, and making sure that the technology that you do use has the ability to integrate into different aspects that you may want, whether it's different programs out there or the ability to integrate into the hotel side of the business. That's one of the advantages we have at Cendyn, is because we work with so many hotels and hotel chains around the world that we have, and a lot of the tools being used in those industries or those hotels are our tools. Even though they're white labeled, you don't know they're Cendyn's, but we already started that integration process. And from the hotel side, we've integrated into some of the tools we're putting into some of the new planning organizations around the world. Is just that next step to making things much more efficient in the hospitality industry.
Awesome. I love that you want to use tools that integrate everything together. I think far too often people look at tools, but they don't look at what it integrates to. So they sign up for this tool, they get it all set up, and then go, oh God, its own standalone, and you can't continue integrating into a lot of different things. So I definitely love that. Doug, what about you? What ways do you think planners can use technology to better plan events at hotels?
Well, I think there's a lot of options for them, and picking the right tools is so key to that. I mean, Dave talked a little bit about some of our strategic meeting management tools, and not a lot of people know about Cendyn and the tools that we have. There's a lot of 800-pound gorillas out there in the event space, and I think that what we do uniquely is try to configure the tools to the way that people are working. And you mentioned integration. We look at those different points of integration and try to integrate with the tools they're already using today, so that we're not trying to take them out of practice. What we're trying to do is create a smooth flow of data, so to speak, for a person to use one tool to the other, but they're talking to each other, so we're all on the same, they're in the same workflow, but it's just making it easier from that standpoint. So that's what Cendyn does really well, is integrates to the different touch points that a meeting planner would be doing each day, but giving them better tools in the process.
Awesome. You guys are from Cendyn, so obviously great tool to obviously utilize, but do you have any other tools that you really enjoy that you think planners should be utilizing? I think everyone's always looking for that next cool app to help make their life easier. Do you have any favorites on each of your ends that is a favorite tool that you've been utilizing? Go ahead, David.
All right. So I think from the app side, we look at different aspects of how do you use an app at an event, and you want to make sure that it's an easier app to use, and it does have a lot of features. So we actually do a lot with that process. We don't actually provide mobile apps specifically for the industry. We really use some of our partners to do that, and I think that's where I find the most benefit from that perspective, because I think when you get on site and when you want attendees to use the mobile apps, when you want them to be as simple as possible, you want them to provide the detailed information for them, and to provide icons and pop-ups, to provide instant information of changes, etc. And what we've found, and why we focus on this quite a bit with our partners, is really the ease of use of those tools is the most important part. Because one of the things that attendees don't want to do is really get bogged down with trying to learn something. Nobody wants to learn anything. They want to be able to press a couple buttons and roll with it. And I think that's really the focus for us, is really identifying the apps that people use on site. And then we're also, looking at the RFID technology to identify where you are. A lot of people get freaked out about that, but it's something that's growing to really identify where you may be at a location that really can get, it's really a GPS type of thing for meetings and events. But it really can not only help you find your way around, but also to connect with individuals that may be looking for you. A lot of people say, well, that's an invasion of my privacy, but a lot of times you want to connect with somebody, and you're at a meeting and it has 4,000 or 5,000 people, and you've been trying to run into that person. This gives you that option to do so.
Do you have any specific tools using RFIDs or event apps that you're currently enjoying?
Yeah, from our perspective, Quick Mobile is the apps that we actually work with, and they continue to bring on new different pieces for that. So that's really an app that we really enjoy working with.
Awesome. I know it's hard to play favorites. What about you, Doug? Anything on the the tool side of things that you're really enjoying right now? Ones that you like working with, or that you've seen at events that you really like?
I'll take it from a personal perspective, since I'm more on the hotel marketing side. So, and I travel all the time. So does Dave, and most of the folks, salespeople in our company, travel a lot. So a couple of the personal apps that I've been using a lot is Hopper, which is an app where you can go and find airfares. You put in your dates, and it'll give you the best time to buy that ticket. So that's one of the apps that I use. And another one that I'm addicted to is Waze. It's the social GPS, and I love it. It tells you where you're going, the best route to take. And I live in the New England area, so I can get to Boston Logan in about 10 different ways, but it takes me on the right route to make my flight. So those are some of the personal apps that I've been indulging in.
Awesome. We have a really great question from the audience. It might go a little bit off topic, and then I'll come back towards the tool side of things in a little bit. But question from the audience, they're asking, hearing that hotels are this person is hearing that hotels are prioritizing transient business over group business. How do you think this changes the relationship between planners and hotels, especially contract negotiations? Probably moving, from big group travel towards, hey, it's a lot smaller, it's individual people. How does that kind of affect the hotel negotiations, Doug?
Well, you know what? I'll let Dave answer that, because actually Dave speaks about this a lot. From the event marketing side, or I should say from the guest marketing side, they really are trying to go after that transient guest a lot more these days, mostly because it's the higher revenue hit they're going to get, although group business sometimes does have that, but we certainly see the transient market being hit more, and group has been doing really, really well over the last several years. So I'll pass this to Dave.
All right, you got this, Dave.
Yeah, I think the transient is, that's always been where the hotels want to plan, because it's obviously a higher average rate, and you don't have anything associated with it. A group customer or a group piece of business really has a lot attached to it. So you may be, have a lower rate as a group customer, but you're also using their meeting space. If you're not paying for it, that gets added in, and then you're required to have different other aspects for a group customer. So from a hotel perspective, they always want to layer in a group business to get their base in, but then they really want to drive the IT revenue in there, and they fill that in, and then they start opening things up, obviously, to the paid channels when they can't fill that in, but they really have a base that they work off of on the group side. What you're seeing now, which really could be interesting in certain areas, is the influx of really economy-based limited service hotels in major metro areas. So what that means is you have a lot of hotels going in that have limited service, adding rooms, no meeting space, and they are actually picking up that other business, whether it be the IT business or the group business. And they're doing so at a pretty substantial rate, and that's why these hotels continue to be built, because you can build a hotel with limited meeting space, with limited service, but still get almost the same exact rates, if not just 25 or 10% under, that's a great win for the owners of these hotels, and it really is all about that bottom line to them. So that's why you're seeing a lot more of them be built and a lot less hotels with meeting space being built because there's just so much extra cost involved with that. But you know, it's definitely the way of the industry, and I think the only way that's going to flip around is if the amount of hotel rooms exceeds obviously the amount of supply or the demand in that area. And you know, you can see that also with any of the other you know, outside of the those limited service hotels out there. And as more and more come in, you'll see that kind of change over, but we haven't seen it as of yet.
Awesome. That's very, very interesting to think about is that, yeah, the reduction of meeting space. So then that way you can make for that transient space. Very, very interesting. Talking a little bit about you know, the marketing tools, I want to kind of jump into it. I'm very passionate about marketing, so I could talk about it forever. And by the way, hooray for me being able to see my face now. Yes, the audience is going wild. Really, really curious to know, you know, what are some of the common marketing problems that you're solving by creating this marketing tool? You know, you first talked a little bit about creating more personalized messaging so you can, you know, do things like retargeting messaging, I'm guessing, you know, drip campaigns with email. Can you talk a little bit about, you know, what sort of problems were you trying to solve when you were creating this marketing tool?
Well, it's exactly what you said. It's really trying to hit the right guest at the right time with the right message. And what we do is we look at that first-party data. So we go to the hotel, we ask them to share their first-party, their guest data with us, and then we talk to the hotel about what they're trying to accomplish this year, and look at, you know, who is their best guest. You know, what did they spend in the restaurants? What were their lengths of stay? How many times have they come back? You know, once we get that profile, we can then connect to all the other digital channels out there, whether it's through email, whether it's through display ads, whether it's through all those other things, and then pair that up with the data that's out on the web. So we can tap into the different channels like through American Express, MasterCard, Visa, Axiom data, and take all that intent and buying data and look at the landscape out there, and take that best guest and then do lookalike marketing to that. So we can then find those people that look like that.
I was going to say, can you just find what lookalike marketing is? I know it is, but if anyone out there doesn't know what it is.
Let's take one of our customers for an example, a small hotel in Santa Barbara, California. You know, there are 80 rooms, and their best guest looks like a person that makes between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. They're married. They tend to be male, and they travel 10 to 15 times a year. So now we have that profile. We can start looking at that type of person and look at the different marketing channels and see how many people that we can hit with lookalike marketing that look like that person. So we can do it through a number of different channels, and it's all based on the cookie data that's already out there. So if ever anybody's listening to this, we all know who you are. We don't know what your name is, but we can find you based on your cookie data and your spending habits and everything else that happens online. We're not doing anything illegal or trying to tap into any different channels, but what we're doing is finding those guest profiles and serving them up with an ad that they might be searching or on USA Today somewhere. And we find that person, they match the profile, they're going to get served an ad from that hotel. Or they might get an email from that particular property. So we can really, you know, mine the data for the hotels and do a great job of turning guests towards that property or chain. So it really depends on what we're trying to accomplish there.
Awesome. David, do you have anything that you want to add to about, you know, common marketing problems that you're seeing being solved by your tool?
Yeah, I think one of the things that that we do as part of the tool, but I think is a big issue for a lot of the hotels out there, is they have data, and all their data is in different locations. So they really can't pull the data together to make educated marketing decisions on that particular person or persons or groups, etc. You know, when you get all that data and now it comes into the our tool, that data now is all together, and then you can actually market, put your marketing plans, put your campaigns against specific data to target that individual that you have been collecting data all over the place and may not understand that they have different interests other than they may have come there for a group event, but they have interests that they could bring you back to that particular property.
Awesome. I love it. Ultimately, I think what we all strive for is the ideal customer that returns over and over again and is super duper loyal. So it seems like that's a huge goal of utilizing data and this technology to do it.
But it also is taking care of them when they're on property. When they walk in that front door, knowing who they are when they walk through that door. We're coming out with a new product called Engage, which as soon as the person at the front desk starts typing in information, we're pulling up that profile of that guest and asking them specific questions based on their stay or based on some pre-programmed questions that the hotel wants us to accomplish. So,
can you provide an example?
So, for instance, all right, let's. This is an easy example. Will, you walk into a hotel, and what's the first question you get a lot of times? Have you ever stayed with us before?
Yeah.
Yeah. This eliminates that completely, where they know, welcome, Mr. Curran. We see that you're staying 3 nights with us. Would you like us to set up reservations at any of the restaurants for you? Things like that. Most of the time, the screens don't tell you what to do, but we have a tool called Engage, which will walk that front desk clerk through those different scenarios based on that specific guest profile. And
so
then
it's almost like a little bit like a workflow. Like if they've done this, then display this message or tell them to do this or give the data to the front desk person.
Exactly. So
and also, I think the other
email from us saying we would love you to book the spa, and they can then start adding on things like that, saying, hey, we saw you book the spa for Thursday. We'd like to tell you about some of the other things that are going on during that day. So
cool. Very
it's really
cool.
being smart about your guests.
And
that's
I think
amazing.
it works. It also works great in if you have a call center that you're using, because all the information pops up at the call center. So if they're booking a reservation, they can see all that information. We see you stay with us. You like this floor. You had dinner at this restaurant. You can do all of that work. So you almost have that concierge effect right in front of them. It's more of a, what we say, personalized experience, and that's really what customers really want today, is that personalized experience. They do not want to be a customer as a commodity.
Yeah, you'll be hearing a lot about this product in the coming months. We're rolling it out now with some chains, and I think it's really going to make a huge impact on these customers and their clients, and make their stays much better for everybody.
Well, I love it completely because we're really passionate at Endless about customer service and taking care of our clients, and I think one of the biggest things is that if you can utilize technology to leverage that customer service and provide a more amazing experience, it cuts down on costs, but also it just elevates things, and utilizing that data is just absolutely fantastic because when I bring in even if it's my second stay or maybe I don't spend that much money, it makes me feel like a VIP, similar to like when Uber first came out and the black car showed up and it was a nice black car, no one knew what Uber was, and the guy would come out and say, hello Will, and everyone was like, how does he know your name? And it makes it seem like such a VIP, right? And I think that's what gets me to utilize Uber over and over and over again. So I absolutely love it. I'm curious to know, we might have some hotels tuned in right now, or some properties, or maybe someone who's, interested in maybe creating their own property maybe soon. What are some things that you think that hotels need to be doing to market themselves now? And then we'll jump into the second half question I have after that as well. David, is there anything that you think that hotels need to be absolutely doing? Obviously, other than having Engage, because that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I think from the perspective, I think what we talk about with hotels, you should really think about technology and how it's going to benefit you, not just now, but in the long term. So your investment for technology is really for the long term. And then we also see that a lot of people say, well, I can get that hospitality technology, but let me try to do this myself. Well, one of the things that you have to understand, technology is not an easy thing to put together. And once you do get it together, one of the things that we see today with a lot of folks that are coming to us is, we built a homegrown system, but now, you look at any, and you have it with your own personal computer that you're using. Microsoft updates their systems every 2 to 3 months, and once they update it, it changes everything, and you have to update that. So unless you have a full-time staff and full-time production team that can handle that, you just get farther and farther behind, and you're not keeping up with the update. We do enhancements and upgrades to our product every quarter. So if you're not doing that, you're falling so far behind. And if you can imagine, I'm struggling right now. I have one of the original iPads. That thing is slow as all get-go, and it's just because it's different than it was, today. So I think that's the thing that I talk about, is really focusing on technology is a major investment, and you need to think it through and think it through for the long term.
Awesome, and always making sure that you have the newest, latest, and greatest, and you're not hanging on to the old stuff.
No, because what it does is affects your bottom line, and it affects efficiency. When you make it harder for your folks to do work with technology, they won't use the technology. That's just been proven time and time again. And you spend more money in the longer term than you would with the investment up front with continual updates as things need to be programmed. And you're getting updates, quite frankly, from a multitude of customers. So as more and more customers are using something, they're providing more feedback, and that feedback adds to the enhancements that you may not have ever thought about with an individual system that you may be using.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. What about you, Doug? What do you think are some things that you think hotels absolutely need to be doing to market themselves correctly today?
Is owning their data and managing their data in a much more efficient manner. I mean, they
when you say owning, do you mean literally owning the data, or do you mean just like the idea of being like knowing the data?
Yeah, exactly, knowing it. I mean, there's so much information that's out there that's gold that hotels just don't know. And it's the small things that can really catch a hotel. It's a comment that a guest might make, or they're trying to get their TripAdvisor scores up. It's really organizing and having that data all in one place, and having dashboards and things like that, so they're seeing what's going on with that data. And you need technology to do that. So investing in technology, as Dave said, from a CRM side for the hotels is so key. There's some great tools out there. Yes, Cendyn is one of them. But you'll also find you're not going to break the bank when you're looking at this technology. I think the initial investment and the integration costs are going to be higher than some might expect, but it's so important to do that, because when the data is all tied together, it produces extremely valuable results.
And so I think too, being able to take the data and make it actionable as well. A lot of times, I think this is a symptom of probably all businesses, not just hotels, planners, or anything like that, but they get a lot of data, but then they do nothing with it. They don't know how to get the data, comprise it into the right kind of graph that gives you the information to say, make a decision right here now what we're going to do. Oh, hey, we see more customers are coming in through this source, so we should invest more in this source. Oh, we see that this is turning more of an investment here. I think a lot of times people love to collect data, but they never end up doing anything with it too. So I think that would be really helpful as well.
You're singing our song. You are. I mean, that's exactly how we talk about data, is make it actionable, make it a living and breathing organism. I mean, you're going to see not 5 years, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, that we're going to be looking at artificial intelligence that looks at the data and then takes action upon that. So we're looking at being able to do email marketing just by saying, hey, let's look at some of the trends that are coming into my city and let's take action upon that. Is occupancy really dipping on these certain days? How can I fill that in? And what's the best guest to fill that piece in? So that's really what we're doing and trying to look at automating that. And no one's really done that in hospitality. And we do have a lot of competitors out there, but I think what you're going to get with competitors is siloed data, is not having all that data talking to each other and making it actionable.
Interesting. I think I'm definitely gonna ask about future trends in just a little bit, because I think everyone's gonna be very, very curious about that. To kind of go on the flip side of that same question, we talked about what should they be doing right and what should they be doing. Are there any things that you think that people should be absolutely avoiding, like things that they're doing on their marketing that they just need to kill and just not do anymore? I'll let David go with that one, or Doug, either one.
But
What they shouldn't do is really, what I see is you look at the data and you make quick decisions, and you're not thinking the entire process through. If you don't have the technology tools that can actually do some of that data mining and intelligence gathering and really setting up your campaigns and marketing programs associated with that, then that's the thing where I would caution: don't make specific decisions based off of what you think the data is telling you. Really wait and make sure that you connect multiple data points from the information and really focus on this is what the campaign means. So if I'm bringing in just one data point and making a decision off of that, I can guarantee it's probably not the best decision that you can make for whether it be a marketing campaign or just individual emails going out as far as email marketing. You really need to really focus on multiple data points because as most people know, there's a lot, especially in the hospitality industry, a lot of factors that make decisions. And that could be decisions on specific areas of the country, specific cities within those areas, different events that might have taken place that are really affecting different aspects of the marketing campaign that you can really start to think about.
Awesome, I love it. Doug?
Well, I just lost my thought, but give me a second. I'll be right back.
It's okay. I think one thing that probably needs to die when it comes to marketing is we talked a little about the personalization messages, but unpersonalized messages, like big, massive email sprays, spray and praise, we like to call them. I think
it's tied to that. So here's my thought back. So I'm back. So
got you.
Welcome.
No, it's really challenge your providers who are giving you that stuff, and what are their results? Have them prove to you what they're currently providing you. I hear it so many different times. Yeah, we have to wait a month to get our SEO and our display ad returns. No, that is not what's in today. You can see what channels are being are doing very well and what channels aren't doing well. So you can shift that around, and you should be doing that on a weekly basis, not a monthly basis, waiting to get those reports. So I would say challenge your current providers and what they're doing and what data they're providing you to show that they're being effective marketers for your hotels.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I think a lot of people use agencies to do their marketing for them, and yeah, they definitely don't challenge them. They don't say, no, like if I don't like something, challenge the status quo, ask hard questions. I love that.
Well, are those agencies hospitality driven?
Yeah.
Do they know the hospitality side of the business? Is that what their focus is, or are they more B2B type of providers? So they really have to be both. They have to be B2B and B2C providers to give you that those types of results.
Yeah, we see that quite a bit. You can definitely tell when a hospitality company is using an outside agency that really focuses in the retail sector, because you're getting continual emails, you're getting bombarded with stuff you have no interest in. And at that point, that's when you're going and you're clicking on that button to make sure that you unsubscribe to them. So now you're losing customers because of the way you're doing business.
I love it. I love it. Let's kill it so we don't have to. Let's get away from the days of when we feel like we have to unsubscribe from emails. So we only got a couple minutes left, so we got a couple more questions. It seems like the audience was really interested in that idea of trends. Everyone's curious to know, what sort of trends do both of you see in the industry that planners should be aware of? Is it whether it's hotel related, specifically planner related? What sort of big trends do you think that planners need to be made aware of? David, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I think the trends. I talked about it briefly, that we see a tremendous amount of select service hotels coming into the bigger cities. So you're obviously going to be seeing your guests that may be in group room blocks be pushed out to these select service hotels. So in select service, you also they may be select service in some aspects, but in a lot of them you're getting a free breakfast and cocktails at night and different aspects at a price point that you may be at the same price point in the full service hotel, but you're not getting those amenities. So that's one of the things that I think the planners need to be obviously aware of, and I'm sure many of them are aware as their room blocks dwindle at certain hotels. I think on the technology side, I talk about risk management. You need to be really focused on, are you exposing your attendee data to the bad guys? And are you at risk for that? And I think the other thing that we're starting to see in trends is we're seeing a lot more activity over the past 3 to 6 months in companies and associations looking at technology to make their lives a lot more efficient. One of the things that we're seeing out there is trending-wise is no one's adding any bodies. So they're not adding bodies in the association or meeting planning side, and they absolutely haven't been adding bodies in the hotel side. You know, you look at convention service and catering; those are dwindling areas within the hotels. They're not putting a lot of those on. So how do you become more efficient? You build technology, do a lot of the work to help those individuals out. And again, that's where we're starting to see the trend. And we're also starting to see the trend with using technology to report not just for a meeting, but across meetings. What is your spend? What are you using suppliers for? Do I have different credits with suppliers? If this supplier just did a bad job for somebody in another area, are we able to see that? So just using technology, we're seeing a lot more of this coming into the marketplace and groups looking at it, as opposed to using, you know, the antiquated Excel spreadsheets and databases that are not specific to the hospitality industry.
Awesome. Fantastic. Doug, what about you on your end? What sort of trends are you seeing?
I touched on it a little bit. I kind of let the cat out of the bag with the AI talking about the marketing automation. But you know, it's when we look at what's trending now, we see that with the select service and with the other things that are going on, we really are trying to promote the way that we integrate with our customers. So we're really looking at taking some of the steps out of those processes with integration, so that the people aren't tied to a system or to a desk, and we're really trying to do it either through mobile applications, dashboards on the iPads. So instead of people carrying around reports or binders or things like that, we're trying to get it into a mobile functionality. For example, you know, you have your arrivals report for a hotel that comes in. It comes up on a person's iPad, and they can just quickly swipe through and look at the different guest profiles that are coming in for that particular day. So we're trying to really mobilize that process as well, because as being hoteliers, we knew the 16-hour days that they go through, and we're trying to make some of those things as easy as possible.
And I think the other thing, Will, and I think you kind of talked about a little bit, is personalization. Now, we know hospitality is all about personalization, but that personalization always used to be in front, in the property, face-to-face. Now personalization is further out. It's electronic, especially, you know, and I hate to say, you know, it's a millennial type of thing, because I think it's everybody. They're on their devices. They want that personalization on their devices. So it's not that the personalization now happens face-to-face with a guest service agent. That personalization starts at the point of booking, and that's where we're seeing a lot of the hotels out there that are doing it well and doing it right, or starting that process now, that are going to win in the long term, and making sure that personalization is not just at a certain level, but it's a global level, because it really is talking about globalization and making sure people are comfortable as they travel around the globe.
I love it. I love that you explain how the personalization goes beyond just like the in-person. It goes to the electronic, because a lot of times everyone just thinks about the in-person element, but sometimes you have to think a little bit further than that, the whole scope of everything. So we only got a couple minutes left here, so let's jump into the last two questions that we do for every episode. So if you could pick one tip, only one tip for planners today to making their planning process easier in 2017, what would be your one tip that you would have for them today? Doug, you want to go for it?
I would say get rid of that paper binder and make it electronic. Look for the different solutions that are out there to take that binder online.
Awesome. I love how succinct that was. It was perfect. Get rid of the paper. Awesome. David, what about you? What would be your one tip for planners today?
I think it's technology will make you more efficient, and efficient is really what we're all looking for. And I think if you bring that technology into your organization, not just as it's a nice to have, it actually is a must to have because, quite frankly, when we talk to planners that are coming into the industry today, they're making their job decisions based off of who they've interviewed with and what technology those companies have because you're not going to go to a company, especially if you're coming out of a college and you've graduated with a hospitality degree and you lived in that technology world, and you go to an organization that's using Excel spreadsheets. It's a tough go. You may look elsewhere.
Awesome. I love it. I like how both of your guys' tips kind of tied to each other, too, about the efficiency and utilizing technology to kind of give yourself a lever to be able to get more done. So I love it. All right, cool. So we're coming down to our last and final question, which I think is everyone's favorite question. I mean, it is mine, so I'll say it's everyone's favorite question too. If you had to pick any cool new resources, books, blogs, websites, scuba masks, gadgets, what do you want to share with the world out there? I know we started talking a little about Quick Mobile, Hopper, and Waze, but are there any other cool tools, blogs, books you've read, anything like that? And I'll let anyone jump in at any time you guys would like.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in real quick. I'm on the book side of things, and Doug, the gadget guy, Doug could talk about gadgets. So on the book side, I think one of the books that I highly recommend is Disruptor's Feast, which was written by the former CEO of Starwood Hotels, Fritz Van Paschen, and it really talks about globalization and how this is really disrupting, the ability, and how you need to think about moving forward. So if you're not thinking about how globalization is going to affect you in the future, quite frankly, you're going to fail. And I think it's a great read, and it really gets down to some of the basics of that and what Fritz has seen through his years. But I think for me, it's an eye-opening look at not just what's happening now, but what's going to happen in the future at a very rapid pace.
Awesome. I love it. Are there any other resources, cool books or blogs that you want to share, Dave?
No, I think that was it. I'll let Doug go.
I've
Doug,
already
Gadget
talked
Man.
about my favorite couple of things already, so I know we're at closing time, but I'll tell you, I can't travel now without using Waze, even in my rental cars and everything else, so it's the best thing ever created.
Awesome. I love that you're doubling down on Waze for sure.
Well, if you drive a fast car or you want to avoid the police traps, it's one of the best things that's out there as well. So.
And red light cameras. That's the other one that tells you.
That's right.
That's the one you want to definitely avoid. I know that Uber just updated their app too, so now navigation's a little bit better with the drivers, whereas they used to have to switch to Waze, but Waze is super duper popular.
Yeah.
I guess my resource that I have to share with everyone, it's not necessarily a resource, it's more of a tip. But a couple of my app development friends are recently on the game to trying to reach exec platinum on American Airlines. And a quick tip for all those people who fly a lot. Sometimes you think, hey, how can a airline be helpful to me? But sometimes think to yourself, how can you be helpful to your airline? They were helpful in the point where he actually spotted a bug in one of their apps and reported it to him and got some free, basically 1,000 miles for free. So I'm sharing his cool tip that if you find bugs in the apps, as I have the tech guys on, report it to American Airlines so you can get some free miles.
Delta will be hearing from me, so.
Awesome. Well, it's been such a fantastic show. David, Doug, it's been so awesome to have both of you on here. You both are so forward-looking when it comes to the experience that people are having when it comes to events and hotels, and it's been just such an honor to have both of you on the show today. Thank you for both being here.
Well, thanks,
My
Bill, for
pleasure.
having us. It's been great.
Awesome. And a huge thank you to everyone in the audience that's tuned in right now. It has been so awesome to have you all tuned in. If you're interested in watching the recording, you can always catch that on our blog, helloendless.com/blog. And we will look forward to having you next week on #Event Icons at 5 p.m. Eastern every single Wednesday. And we will catch you guys very, very soon.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #. and all of the resources mentioned, head to www.helloendless.com/blog. This week's episode will be posted and available by next Tuesday. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway and join the Twitter conversation sponsored by Alex Plaxton and Little Bird Told Media. Just tag your post with #EventIcons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #EventIcons.